Hello and welcome. Well, I want to double check because we just got an error message. Can anyone see us? Yeah, we're good to go. Okay, ignoring the error message then. Fantastic. Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Digital Health Growth Show presented by Fire&Spark. This is where marketing nerds are getting together to discuss what grows digital health brands. Chris and I welcome growth leaders from some of the coolest brands in the space, and we walk out together on what's working, what's allowed them to achieve such success, and figure out what the playbook for growing these brands looks like together. And beyond that, this show is part of something that we call the Digital Health Growth Mastermind, which is a community exclusively for the growth leaders within digital health companies, which includes live shows like this, in-person meetups in cities across the country, and a bunch of other awesome ways to learn and grow together, more of which will be coming out soon in the coming months. So if you haven't checked it out, if you don't know what that is, feel free to reach out to me, and I would love to welcome you to that. Our goal with the mastermind, with content like this and the meetups, is that 1 year from now, like every single person I talk to will be able to say they met someone, had a connection, had a conversation, learned something that totally changed their career or their business or allowed them to surpass their goals. So if that sounds interesting, again, please reach out. You might have noticed we have 3 people today in some of our promotional materials. We were expecting a 4th, but unfortunately, Tina Coyle of Within Health had some personal stuff come up and is unable to join us today. I'm sure she would love to hear from you if you respect the work that they're doing over at Within, which I personally do, in some of our big analyses of what's working in the space in SEO. They're doing terrifically well, and she, in conversations preparing for this, was just fantastic and incredibly insightful. So I recommend getting in touch with her. What that also means is that you can all help us out by jumping in and providing some more contributions and participation. Questions in the chat for Chris, myself, and Aviva here would be fantastic. So please feel free to post those questions in the chat. And in addition to that, if you don't mind taking a minute, I love seeing all the incredible brands that we have sign up for this. And I also think it's cool that we're all over the place and getting to connect right here. So if you'd be willing to chat, put in the chat your brand and where you're coming in from, that would be absolutely fantastic. Feel free to post those in the comments. Today, we are talking to a content leader with some of the most incredible, effective digital health content on the web today. We're going to be reverse engineering what makes a piece of digital health content truly effective in 2026. That's keyword selection, all the way to page layout, all the way to the words on the page, and then how you build an operation that effectively balances that performance piece, the kind of SEO piece, and also the brand building and the thought leadership and the valuable information for your patient or end user or customer. And of course, we'll be talking about how AI is shaking up all of that. Really quick, before we dive into it, some intros. I'm Noah Goldfarb. I help run Fire&Spark, where I lead organic growth strategy for the innovative brands that are transforming healthcare, including Bicycle Health, Alara Health, Mochi Health, Hinge Health, all sorts of awesome brands. And Chris?
Hey there, I'm Chris Duritzen. I'm the founder of Single Aim. I have been in the virtual care industry for about 10 years. Spent most of my time at Verta Health and Bicycle Health. And since I've been working with dozens of digital health companies on their own growth strategy.
Awesome. And now let's bring in our guest. Aviva Patz is executive editor at Hone Health. She is an award-winning health editor and content strategist with 20 plus years of experience in print and digital journalism, including as executive editor of Reader's Digest, The Healthy, and Psychology Today. All right, welcome, Aviva.
Thanks so much for having
me. Yeah. Thank you for being here. So content is this big, messy subject, is what I keep finding. The more I talk about it with various people in the space, I find it means different things to different people. There's a number of goals. There are different ways to make it work. There's, and of course, different philosophies on what the future of marketing content even is at this point in time, what the value is going to be to businesses and to the end user or the patient going forward. So let's dive into it. We're going to be chatting about how Hone has built some of the top performing content and a fantastic content library, what good content even means in 2026, and then some more tangible advice for marketing leaders on how you build out and fine tune that content production engine at your own brand. Looking forward to it. Chris, take it away.
Yeah, of course. So first, we're going to be addressing some pretty big questions here about what is content, how do you do good content, etc. Throughout the show and now, I'd like to ask you to basically just share so we know who's here, so what companies, who you are, is in the stream. Also, if you have any specific questions that come up for myself, for Noah, for Aviva, please drop them. We will address those as they come. Also, because Tina wasn't able to make it, that means I get to grill Noah. So Noah's going to be our sort of sub guest in this. He's got a lot of experience also in creating content. So I hope to make him uncomfortable. All right, so let's start this out. So I feel like content is one of these terms that it's like so incredibly vague. It could all basically mean anything. And when someone says good content, that doesn't help understand any either, because good is also an incredibly vague word. So when Google or someone tells us to create good content, I usually just shrug my shoulders and don't know what they're talking about. At the same time, I think everyone knows that creating content is something you should do. There's many reasons why that is. We're very familiar with SEO, and I mean also just like websites in general need content to describe what you do. So I want to go through a few questions that are coming up now, because I think we're in a very interesting time of content, and then we're going to be going in with Aviva about how they're addressing these things. So one, actually, can you pull up as a chart that I'm screen sharing right now? Yeah, the first question here is like, what the heck is the purpose of creating content if AI is just going to summarize everything for you? Health content was actually, this is the Economist analysis of basically traffic to various types of content. It's the most impacted topic area by AI, which makes sense. Basically, it's just been going down and down and down in terms of the volume of traffic going to it. So if we're not going to be in traffic anymore, what's the point? That's the question that I think a lot of people are asking. Also, in terms of AI, like how should you be using it? You probably should be using it some, but how much, how so, like who in your team, like should it be 100% of what you do? Should it be part of what you do? Thirdly is there's different types of content and there's different goals. How do you do them best? We talked about SEO, there's like funnel content, there's sales content, there's PR. So we're gonna get into that. Some will drive direct conversions, some won't drive conversions. And then I think what we're really going to circle this conversation around is we're going to ask Aviva to bring some specific articles that she feels are good, in quotes, and we're going to dive into like what is good about them. So overall, the goal of this conversation is to talk about the different types of content and why you would do different things, not just SEO. What exactly is good content in the context of digital health, and how do you do that in the AI age? And then lastly is how do you set up a machine like Aviva has done to create basically like a constant flow of good content going out the door. All right, so let's get into it. So I have some questions for you, Aviva, and I think I'll direct some of these over to Noah too, but we can start with Aviva. So let's start by talking, kind of setting the stage for like what your content team looks like. I'm thinking about things like team size, budget, how do you split up the work? Let's just get into kind of how things get done at home.
Yeah. Of course. So we have 3 full-time editorial staffers and a team of freelancers. And we tap the marketing team department for design and social support. So we have, 3 core people. I am the executive editor. I'm doing the most hands-on stuff for what I call our zeitgeisty content or our brand awareness content. We have an SEO director who guides our SEO-driven content. And she is absolutely amazing and has her finger on the pulse of what's going on in SEO world. And then, of course, we have a content director who oversees all of it and keeps us aligned with brand goals all the time. So we find that this system is great for us. We can use our freelancers as much or as little as we need, depending on the projects that we're working on at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then how do you set your goals, or what are your KPIs? Like, how do you know you're doing well?
Yeah, this is such an interesting concept, and it's a moving target. So you might think that it's traffic, reach. Those are vanity metrics. So those are going to give you thousands of views, but not a lot of qualified inquiries, right? So we used to get a lot of traffic to articles about What's the best protein powder, or what's the best water bottle? And it was great for bringing people onto the site, but it didn't really convert, right? So why is that traffic useful? So now, as we have evolved, we have two main KPIs. We have conversions and brand awareness. All right. So what is conversions? We know what conversions are, right? People buying our product, or people signing up for newsletter. There are some other sub levels of conversion. What is brand awareness? It's how do we showcase Hone as a leader in this space? It's about elevating the brand, getting people to understand who we are, what we do. So there's not a direct conversion, but we're at an inflection point where we are starting to do articles that use our survey results, our proprietary data, leverages our physician knowledge and authority, where we have a unique point of view, or a unique brand position, and that is building brand awareness, brand affinity, brand authority, and all of that eventually loops back to conversions. So it's fewer views, but it's higher quality views, right? So we're solving problems for a smaller audience, but the right audience.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like you kind of, you mapped out, I mean, there's two KPIs, and I guess there's kind of generally two types of content there. There's like conversion, like direct conversion generating content, and then there's brand building, brand awareness content.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like the conversion is pretty obvious how you measure that. You can measure conversions from people landing on those pages.
Yep.
Brand is harder, but you can measure it in other metrics.
Well, we do have things that we track for brand awareness. So,
okay.
Whether your brand is being mentioned in AI answers for your category, that's one. Two is whether you're being cited by trusted third parties, is two. And whether demand capture improves downstream after those mentions happen. So, that's all a lot more involved to track. It's not as easy as just, going to Ahrefs or, whatever, any, choose your data platform. But it is worthwhile because this is where everything is moving. So we got spoiled by SEMrush and those things. But brand awareness, brand affinity, brand authority, figure that out and measure accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, I think going back to that economist chart we shared, like that's going to become increasingly important.
100%.
Just because the direct traffic is going to be going down and down and down and down. So.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting in some of our earlier conversations, the way you were talking about using engagement metrics as that kind of leading indicator of that you do have that right person on the site, essentially. So I don't know if you have more you can share on that piece.
Well, that's definitely something else that we track. We're not just looking at I'm trying to think. We look at time on page. We look at, newsletter engagement, newsletter opens. We look at what's re-engaging people who dropped out of the funnel. Our lifecycle team uses content from the blog and email messages to show that authority and support. So it's not a traditional metric like eyeballs coming to the site, but that content that we're creating is being repurposed and is leading to conversions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a few kind of like numeric things, like how much content do you produce? And I guess in those two buckets. And I also want to talk about how it's potentially changed over time. If it has.
The content shifts depending on, our goals and what projects we're working on. I would say it's easier to give a percentage. I would say we're doing SEO 50% and brand awareness / zeitgeisty content 50%. We are producing less than we used to because we see the value of impact and over quantity. So that's definitely true. And, we're also not just working on blog content at any given time. We're also working on marketing initiatives, social campaigns, Yeah.
And I think you said that percent, the SEO percent has gone down over time.
The SEO percent has gone down. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about why that is?
Well, everybody knows, like you showed that chart, algorithm has shifted and AI has come along and there are more zero-click searches happening. So, you need another strategy, right? Mm-hmm. So, in addition to that, our company has grown. We're offering new services and new products. So we're evolving our model to meet SEO where it is right now, with AI and where our business goals are. So it's just it's an evolution of the company and an evolution of the way search is moving.
Yeah, so it's like the search is moving in that direction. Secondly, you've kind of filled out the library, I think. Like you've done a lot of the basics. Right?
Yeah, we've done a lot of the basics.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. Do you see this in other customers of Fire&Spark? This shift over time from like more like kind of basic SEO content to some more brand or PR like content?
What I see is like I see it. I'm trying to think of our more mature clients when it comes to their content inventory. I see it taking a few paths. Like one is when we're working with a client who already has an established content inventory when they come to us, often what the focus is getting more value out of that existing content. So it might not be net new pieces of content, but making the existing content more valuable, especially as we have new goals in mind, like showing up in AI search, showing up in AI overviews where appropriate. So that's one path, is like getting more juice out of the existing content. I think it's pretty widely accepted at this point that content freshness is like a pretty significant indicator for ability to rank and perform well. A second path is, and this where it lines up with the actual business, is most brands in this space we find where if they've already been able to invest enough to have a robust content library to kind of check off the low-hanging fruit, then as a brand, they're also often going in different directions as a business, offering new sort of service lines or treatments or products. And usually that's opening up new content opportunities as well. And then there's another path where, and this is probably one of the most common things for us as a particular agency, and often overlaps with either of the previous things that I mentioned, which is just looking at different types of content as well. So very often, probably the most common reason a client comes to us is they've already been producing content for SEO. Usually what that means is blog content. Sometimes that's bringing in traffic to the site, sometimes not. More often now it's not, for the reason you had shown in your graph. We did a big analysis with some data we have access to that I think we'll be able to put in the chat here, where we were looking at the traffic to digital health brands. The graph looks pretty similar to the one you had previously shared. What we had the benefit of being able to do is look not just only at traffic, but also things like total conversions and conversion rate. And what we had found is that traffic, I believe on average, was down something like 40%. I think it was year over year. But the conversion rate from the traffic that was making it to the site was so much higher because the traffic that wasn't getting there, similar to what Aviva was saying, was just not very qualified traffic. It wasn't the right traffic for the site. So anyway, I'll finish up by saying what that sort of project turns into is probably still investing in the blog. There's very few clients where we're not helping them with their blog in one way or another, but also looking at different content formats that perform better, meaning they're more likely to show up given the current search landscape, and they're more likely to engage and provide unique value to the right fit audience so that they'll engage with content. It feeds into the nurtures and then also drives conversion. So that's like multimedia content, landing pages, some programmatic strategies and things like that. Did that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, it did. I think with this shift going on, I think people will often kind of over pivot and think, if Google's just going to summarize my article and ChatGPT is going to summarize my article, there's no point. That all said, there's still a spot for someone to have the best article on, and there will always be that spot. And probably the ROI of creating that article is still worth it to be cited, to be summarized, etc. I think we'll get into that when we talk about good content. So let's move there. So the word good. If I said I like good food, you probably have no idea what I was talking about. If I say I like good content, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. So let's go into good content. And Aviva, you've brought a few pieces today that we're going to go through. Yeah. And I think what I like about these is they kind of show different versions of good. So let's pull up this first article. How much does testosterone replacement therapy cost? Is it showing? Yeah. Oh, I have to show this tab here. Okay, there we are. All right, so just like walk us through kind of what the goals for this article were, why you think it's good, and really try to dig into the word good, like what went right here.
Yeah.
What could have you done wrong?
Yeah. I want to start out with an umbrella definition of good. It's something people are searching for, and I will caveat that with whether they know it or not. It's genuinely helpful, both in structure and in content, and it aligns with brand goals, right? It tells a unique story, has a unique value proposition for that brand awareness that we're looking for. So let's talk about this specific piece. So if you know about Hone, you know that testosterone therapy is where we started. We've since gone on to offer a lot more things, but testosterone was our anchor. Now this story, it was done for SEO purposes. This URL gets 1,000 users a month, drives an average of 30 purchases a month. So it's successful by traffic, and it's successful by conversions. It's also our most successful article on AI. So it appears on ChatGPT and Perplexity for prompts like, how much does testosterone cost? And is TRT expensive? So we optimized this article. You had talked about trying to repurpose content that we have to, make it more robust. And in this case, we did optimize this article. And the way we did it, we placed the cost information directly at the top with bullet points. And we found that the ranking shot up after we did that because we had a paragraph style format that was just not as scannable, not showing people the information they wanted as quickly as they wanted it. So we were number 1 for TRT costs for a while with this piece. We're currently sitting at number 4, but we're plugging away, continuing to try to get back our number 1 spot.
Yeah, and just on one of the pieces you said there, like moving that important content up to the top, that's something I know our SEO team has been sharing articles back and forth on. Like in the last couple of weeks, there's been some bigger studies about how that seems to be like the content near the top of a post is getting cited more often in AI overviews. My question, like one thing I'm wondering about is whether that's like causation or is it because it's the most important information on the page? Like that's usually what goes on at the top of the page, or is it really just a matter of kind of a more hacky approach? Not hacky, but it's more about playing to the algorithm.
No, I think it's reader service because ultimately what you're trying to do is help people. And if this is the most helpful piece on the internet when it comes to trying to understand Hone TRT costs, then your piece is going to win.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. So this is clearly like a keyword focused article, or like maybe in the modern world, an intent focused article, people seeking out just like the answer to this question.
Yep.
I want to talk about this in the context. I think when people think good content, there's like a couple different categories. One is like what we could refer to as the bells and whistles on the content. So, you have the 30-second takeaway, you have infographics, you have a table of contents, you have it medically reviewed, you have published and updated. You have like all the best practices here. I think you probably have an FAQ. Yep, you have an FAQ.
Yep.
You've done all the things. Okay, so there's that category, and then there's also the words on the page itself. Can you sort of talk about how how this article addresses both of those? And I think maybe the second category is the more perplexing because it's less of a checklist. But
yeah. So we have our checklist, right? Another element would be video, if we could swing that, but we just don't have as much robust inventory there yet. So that's a place we're going to be heading. But characteristics of words on a page, we're really emphasizing these days plain language and accessibility. We already know that with structure, we're looking for scannability, right? We want to make things really easy for people to read. People don't have a lot of time, this like Instagram, TikTok mentality. People don't want to sit down and curl up with your article, right? They just want the answers. So those bullets, boxes, those things are really important. But beyond that, we're looking at plain language and really making it something people can understand without having to go to a dictionary. So in this case, in this article, we're going to talk about clinically low testosterone. So yes, there is a word for that. It's hypogonadism. And some searches might hinge on you using that word. But what we'll do in this case is we'll use both. So we'll talk mostly about clinically low testosterone. At one point, we'll probably put hypogonadism in parentheses so that people know that that's the same thing. And if that's the word that they're looking for, we have it. We have that for them. But we're not, we're not throwing around jargon all the time so that people are reading it going like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? We're making it really easy to understand. We're still, it's still clinically rigorous, but it's not cryptic, right?
Yeah. So let's say I'm a competitor and I'm entering the TRT market and I want to rank #1 for this thing. Why can't I just, copy and paste all the text on this page, drop it into my favorite AI and say, write my own article, like in your own words?
Because domain authority matters so much, topical authority. So Hone Health has a lot of content on testosterone, has a lot of content that is adjacent to testosterone. It has a lot of content showing how testosterone is part of a broader health span, framework that you want to have going forward. So it's not like anybody can replace that context. We have the context that makes us an authority on this topic in particular.
Yeah. There's like a little bit of a chicken and egg situation here because that would then imply that since you have that authority, you can start doing that, right? Like, let's say you could just use like lean on AI now for like a lot of, because you could kind of surf your authority. Is that?
But we wouldn't, because we want to give it the special sauce that makes it ours. We want to give it the brand awareness. We want to look at it through our brand lens, which is that system-wide framework, right, of looking at testosterone as one aspect of monitoring, tracking, and treating the things that go into health span. Right. It's just one element of many. So that's the Hone take. So we want to add that. We also we want to add our Hone doctors for authority and legitimacy and all that good stuff. And maybe we want to add some patient stories to show, how people are using this in real life and, and benefiting from it in real life. So there are a lot of elements that can make it brand identified, and that's definitely something that we would want to do.
And also, I mean, you developed that topical relevance and authority for a reason, because you were doing those things right at the very, so it's not something you can just rest on your laurels with, right? Like, you need to continue providing not just content that ranks, but great content that's demonstrating everything you were just saying.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, so let me try to summarize for maybe the less initiated here. So we talked about the bells and whistles, which we say are like these kind of like on-page elements, which maybe it's easy to discount, but they actually are really important, and they're also quite hard to do. Like, good infographics aren't easy. Good summaries are not easy. So stuff like that. So it's not like it just comes out of the box. But in terms of the actual text on the page, you call this special sauce, which sounds like it's some combination of like, what is Hone and what is the story that Hone keeps, telling over and over and over again, and including that in. So that would be differentiated, and like some random upstart couldn't do that.
For sure.
2 is like your special access. So you mentioned access to patients, access to providers, quotes, data. And this article does have data. This is first-party data right here. These Hone TRT costs. I'm not sure. Do you have patient testimonials in here or anything like that, or quotes?
I can't remember.
I don't see anything.
That is something that we're starting to work on.
Yeah.
So you'll see more of that coming up for both men and women.
Okay, so this is like, so it's like access to essentially proprietary information, or like difficult to create information. So that's what, and I think oftentimes people look at these articles, they look at, so, let's say I drop this article into Claude and I get an article out, it's going to look pretty similar. And I'm going to ask the question like, well, why is one better than the other? And it does seem like it is kind of these like last effects that do make it better and do make it feel more real and authentic, which is, the quotes, the data, that kind of stuff, which, I mean, I'm not sure AI can't do that, but at least you have to provide it the right context. And that is like unique context that
Yeah, I mean, proprietary data and proprietary information of all kinds is so critical at this point for differentiating your brand. And we have that. So, we leverage it because we can and because it really is a differentiating factor. And LLMs, we have found, large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, they prefer that unique take. So anytime we can provide a unique take, our unique value proposition, we do, and it does pay off.
Okay. Yeah, I would like what you said at the end there, because that's the term I will most often use when talking to clients is unique value. Like, and that means why would a human go to your site and actually care about anything that they're reading if just like we could copy this and put it into Claude, just like they could just go to Claude directly and read something there. And right. Yes, they might be able to provide data like Chris was saying, but I think what allows that data, it's an ecosystem that works together. Is you have proprietary data, that's unique value, but they actually want to read yours because you're the expert here. That's backed up by the clinicians whose names are on it, the patient testimonials and things like that. It all works together in that way. And exactly. It's a pleasant, I really wouldn't discount how nice of a reading experience this is. Like I might just, like the table of contents and the visuals and the formatting. I think the way you're not, like you said at the beginning, not relying on blocky paragraphs is fantastic. Forget SEO.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it used to be, and it's not that way anymore. People don't have time. Ain't nobody got time to read paragraphs,
Yeah.
It's not a New York Times Sunday magazine story.
Yeah.
All right. I think I get it. If anyone has any questions on any of these articles, please drop them in the chat. But this kind of makes sense to me. What's unique here and why this is ranking well and doing well.
Harmony in the chat was nice enough to point out that it's back up to number 2 today.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone mention it on your socials and link to it from your high authority domains.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to piece number 2, which is a very different piece.
Very different.
Let me pull this up here. Okay, so this one, I have the right one here. Yeah, this is like more of a kind of news-related story. I don't think this is as SEO related. Just talk about kind of the goals here, why you did this, and sort of how it's performed and how you know it's good.
So this is an example of a different bucket. This is our brand awareness zeitgeisty content. We are responding to a news event. The FDA convened a panel about TRT to talk about, the existing warning labels and whether they're warranted and possibly removing those. And the reason this is so successful for us is that we didn't just report on the news, we contextualized it, right? We have a clear point of view on this. This is something that aligns deeply with Hone's mission. Our position is that low testosterone is a sign of decline and should be addressed. It's not just like locker room talk or gym bro stuff. Testosterone is integral to health and health span and longevity, and you need to address it, in order to optimize those things. So we wove our story into that, which did help with both of these buckets, right? So what we're finding is that even though this was not an SEO story, it got enough traffic to get attention to the brand and lead to conversions, which is incredible, right? I mean, we didn't have to hang our hat on, any keywords. We didn't have to work really hard on the structure to make sure that it was going to optimize for this keyword, blah, blah, blah. So this is thought leadership by our CEO, and it is in paragraph format. And lo and behold, we're getting conversions from this. So this is a really good example of how brand awareness can pay off. Even though we talked earlier about how sometimes, brand awareness is difficult to track. And that's not a new problem, right? That's been around for a long time. But this is one way that we saw gains from this immediately. You can see that this was published very recently, and we already have conversions from it. So super great example of how shooting for brand awareness can ladder up to your business goals and bring in conversions.
Okay. So I think a lot of people are comfortable with SEO. It's like a very like rational thing. You create an article, you see some keywords, you drop it in the bucket, and like you just kind of wait. Content like this is less obvious. How you get people to see it, and then sort of what's the ongoing value. So how did you get people to see this?
Yeah, we did put this on our socials. I can't remember if we did a static or the Harmony's on the call. Maybe she can tell me, or a carousel. But we did put it on our socials to get people's attention on this. And that's something you were saying earlier, Noah, about sort of diversifying and not putting all our eggs in the blog basket. So this goes into newsletter. This goes into Instagram. This goes into our LinkedIn posts. Believe it or not, I look back at GA4 and it will show that we got maybe, a handful of people coming in from a LinkedIn post. Could be a LinkedIn post from me, from Saad, our founder, from our social team. But LinkedIn brings in readers and brings in people who convert. So don't sleep on those other channels, even if you have a piece of blog content to back it up or not, right? It's like sometimes, for example, when there was an update to this, when the FDA panel did indeed follow through and take the black box warning off of TRT products, we didn't do another piece of content, but we did do a social update that did link back to this piece of content. And so, you can kind of keep leveraging this content on your other channels. You don't have to keep doing new pieces of content.
So is it, just trying to be like really simple here, is it correct to bucket the first piece of content in the like SEO, GEO bucket and put this in like the organic social bucket? Like well,
I would call it a brand awareness bucket, because sometimes it does get SEO traction and that's the ideal scenario, but it doesn't always. So you can call it whatever you want: zeitgeisty, newsjacking, brand awareness, social forward, whatever you want to call it. Yes, this is that bucket.
So how would the company suffer if you didn't create this kind of content? What is it? I mean, there's probably direct conversions, but I assume that there's more to it than that. Like what do you lose if you don't do this kind of thing?
I think that this is the whole brand awareness game, right? Content has shifted. We don't have traditional media goals anymore. We have to do more of what is better for us, more that aligns with our mission and gets us the kind of eyeballs that we want. And if you're just doing SEO, you're not going to get that brand awareness, that brand affinity, and that topical authority that you're looking for. You have to stay current and talk about the news in your space, and you have to respond to the news in your space.
And I would actually take it, and tell me if this is right to you, but I would actually take it a step further, which is like, this kind of thing is probably a large part of what allows the organic focused content, the SEO content, to perform well. Very often, like when people are churning out their blog content and it's not working, often it's because it's just from AI and not very good, not much thought put into it. But also often it's because they have a website that says nothing about them, gives Google LLMs no reason to actually believe a thing that they say or to put value in it. Because Google and LLMs, they're making a choice in each and every time. Like, you're not producing it into a vacuum. They're choosing, should we go with this brand who has this sort of clout essentially and is saying these things, which are this level of valuable and smart, or should we go with this one? And when we're coming onto a project and the blog content wasn't working, very often it's because that's the only thing they were doing, and they just weren't supporting that with actually demonstrating that they're a strong, trustworthy brand. And this is exactly what this does here.
Yeah, and we talked about the KPIs for brand awareness, right? Whether you're being mentioned in AI answers, whether you're being cited by trusted third parties, and whether your demand capture improves. So if you think about it, these are the kinds of stories that will get you to those KPIs. And if you don't have those KPIs, like you said, you have to have both.
I feel like this content it's easier for people not to do because it doesn't have like a really clear rational process to say, like, write these 10 articles. What is your process? Like, how did you decide to do this?
It's kind of gut instinct in this case. It's when we see a news story that feels like something we are already responding to in, as a business. Like, this is our business. TRT is our business. It's one of the things that we're doing, but it is squarely within our purview. So when we see it in the news, this is a great opportunity for us to get out there and get out in front of it and be a voice, an authoritative voice in this space. And we did that with another piece that I didn't submit to you guys to a show, but we did the hottest, menopause moments, when menopause became like the hot topic of 2025. And how did that happen? And why did that happen? And, obviously female hormones are the counterpoint to the counterpart rather to the TRT that we have. We have HRT. So that's us again, bringing our expertise and our authority into that space in the larger culture, so that we're attracting LLMs, we're attracting that that kind of traffic and that kind of brand awareness. We're saying this is who we are, and you have to do that. And newsjacking or responding to news is absolutely the easiest and most effective way to do that.
Yeah, going back to some of the like on-page things here. I mean, so Elements, it's written by your CEO, which brings authority. There's no one else who could claim that. It does mention Hone, and it has specific like kind of mentions of Hone patients. So this is like first-party information.
Yep.
It has a specific perspective, which again is first-party. Yeah, so it follows some of the same ideas. You're basically creating something that essentially nobody else could create on a topic that people were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I get it. Okay, well, maybe I'll just ask Noah a few questions. Aviva, give you a quick break. We've been talking a lot about your stuff here. Just like across different clients, Noah, like, we've gone deep into these two types of content. Is this what you see? Like this kind of content, is this what's working in 2026? Are there other types? Yeah, can you add more information there?
Yeah, the companies we work with who are doing the best, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone, similar to what I was saying a minute ago, is they're doing both. What we're more often most involved in, like people hire to talk about us, the reason people hire us is because they want traffic that converts. Most often, or very often at least, we're working with direct to consumer businesses, so they're looking for patients, and we're measured against actually bringing the right people to the site, and then those direct conversions. When our job is easier rather than harder, it's because the companies are also doing a lot of other strong stuff in the space. Like Chris, we worked with you back at Bicycle, and you were just doing a number of things right. The business was strong, the leadership was strong, you had great PR, and you were producing content like this. I remember working on proprietary research with you as well, and all of that allowed the content to actually achieve what we want it to achieve, what we're focused on helping it achieve, which is getting in front of the right people and then helping to convert them. We do see the blog, and I wouldn't say much has changed from our perspective, actually, in terms of the value of blog content versus other kinds of content, because our kind of stake in the ground for a while has been that it's not that the blog is a waste of resources. It just needs to be one tool in a toolkit. Like I look at large digital health sites, clients of ours and non-clients of ours, and incredibly frequently they will have a very robust blog with all the right bells and whistles, really strong content written by people who obviously know their stuff, and it's completely isolated, like that you can't get from landing on that blog very easily to what I like to think of as the next logical sequential question that you would want answered if you were at all more curious about learning about the subject matter or learning about the brand. So it's kind of siloed from the main portion of the site, if there really even is a main portion of the site. And what that usually would be is landing pages that are talking about the treatments you provide, the conditions you treat, and taking those beyond the very high level, meaning instead of just saying, hey, we treat obesity, or we treat this hormonal issue or that. There's different people with different experiences, problems, symptoms that they're trying to get treated. And very often that content, can be addressed via blog content, but there's people that are actually searching with conversion intent who are better suited to land on a landing page, or even a local landing page, something where, people are often still searching for solutions near them. And often a lot of these solutions in the space are virtual. They might not even know that there are virtual solutions. And a lot of digital health brands are doing much less than they should be to get in front of those people who aren't actually actively looking for exactly what they do, which is a virtual solution. So it's blogs, and then it's alternative content formats as well, often landing pages, and occasionally different takes on informational content, including shorter form FAQs and multimedia content, graphics, and things like that.
If I was an up-and-coming brand in any vertical in digital health, and I basically copied what Aviva's done with Hone, would you say that's like the success strategy?
I mean, I think Hone is one of the most, from what I'm aware of, one of the most successful digital health brands when it comes to content. Yeah, that's why we had you on, for a good reason. But what I will say on that is this was the right strategy for your brand. And I think different brands have different needs. Probably 1 in every 10 brands that I talk to who are interested in chatting SEO, I'll just tell them that it's either not the right fit or not the right fit for them at the moment. So often smaller brands, for example, in a space where what you're doing is almost by definition innovative, if people aren't searching for anything remotely related to what you do, SEO might not be the right place to start. But in general, I think it would be hard to do much better than point people to the Hone website as an example of how to do this well, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, we're getting pretty low on time. I'm gonna say it's really fun to talk amongst us three, but we love to have people ask questions and make comments too. So in those last few minutes, please drop them in the chat so we can address them.
And Chris, can I ask you a question while people do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I think it's cool that we have a few different perspectives here. We have, I'm SEO focused, conversion focused. Aviva, you are obviously very involved with that, but also the journalism background, very much a content person at heart. And Chris, you are very much a growth person at heart. Brands hire you or consult with you to grow their brand by whatever means necessary. And you're also a very analytical and numbers-based person. So what I would imagine is that your initial bias is towards things that can clearly be tied to performance. And I'm wondering if your perspective has shifted at all over the course of these conversations.
I think your bias is to assume that's my bias.
Yeah.
I guess I would say. I think if you've done growth long enough, you know that there's the easy to measure things and the hard to measure things, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't do the hard to measure things. Mm-hmm. So we just talked about 2 categories of content. One is easier to measure. I mean, SEO by itself is harder to measure than performance. Paid. So if you're going to adopt SEO, you're already kind of eating some vegetables and understanding that it's going to take some time, and you're going to have to just trust that it works. And then I think brand content is 1 click further down that pathway. I mean, I'm pretty deep in believing that this is true. I just don't see the other option in the age of LLMs. I mean, I've seen a bunch of companies come out of the gate, create a bunch of kind of AI generated content. They may get some hits immediately just because there wasn't that much good stuff on the topics, but it limits out pretty fast. I mean, I just think it's become more and more important. And from what I've seen, it's kind of as Aviva said, you start with 90% SEO, you move down to 50-50 brand SEO. That makes a lot of sense to me. And you just have to kind of deal with it, that it's harder to measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, but you know what I think is interesting to note here and important to note is that the people who come in to Hone through our content are more likely to stay with the company because they are deliberately seeking information. It's not some dude on his phone who sees a funny meme on social and then, he comes to the site, but he pops right back out. So we're more focused on people who are mentally partway down the funnel, because this is something that we're exploring. So you can look at cost per acquisition, all that stuff if you're a CMO. But it's really important to look at lifetime value. And that comes through content, or it can come through content, because and that's the best bang for your buck in the end. So ignore it at your peril.
Yeah, that's very true. SEO leads tend to have longer lifespan than paid leads. All right, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that kind of in the macro. Like my general, whenever I look at companies, I always feel like they're spending too much on paid and not enough on content. And I think that, I've heard people say things like, your SEO or content budget should be 10% of the paid budget, but also that seems low to me, honestly. Do you have any takes on this, Aviva?
Well, I just want to say that when we increase our paid, we do see a lift in traffic to our blog. So, when they up their spend, that, everything, when they go up, we go up. So I don't think that you can say that paid works alone, because, as we just established, when people come in through our content, they're more likely to engage, more likely to stay and become longtime members, which is our goal ultimately, right? Conversion. So paid is great, but you got to have that content to sort of like get it over the finish line. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but more paid leads to more traffic, and you can't really count on just having paid and no traffic, or nothing to bring traffic to get people over that finish line.
Do you think, like, as a content team, it sounds like you're pretty lean. You sounds like you have 3 people for like a quite large brand. I don't know how much you spend on paid, but I just assume it's in the a lot category.
That's above
yeah, above the cost of 3 people. What are you limited out? Like, is your team the size it is because the budget is limited there? Or, if you had 3 times the budget, would you do 3 times as good stuff? Like, what's your take there?
If we had 3 times the budget, we would do different things. We would do probably a video plan, like a long form and a short form, and we'd chop up the long form stuff into 18 different pieces for social, right? So we would have a video plan. I think we would also build out our social team, right? Noah has been talking a lot about these different types of platforms and leveraging the different platforms and the different types of, multimedia efforts going into these. So I think that we would build out both video and social. And I absolutely do not think that we would, out of the gate at least, double our team. I don't think that's what we would do. We would look to experimenting with the video and the social. We would see what's working and invest where things were working.
Okay. All right, maybe we should wrap it up now. Noah, you want to do a wrap up?
Yeah, I'll do a wrap up. First off, thank you very much, Aviva, and thank you everyone that is attending live or will be checking out the recording. Very much appreciate all of that. For a wrap up, what we're going to do is we're going to go around, and Aviva, Chris, and I just going to really quickly summarize, take it down into a single bullet point. So if you wanted people to walk away with a single either lesson or something to keep in mind as they look to either try to build what Hone built from scratch, or at least improve on the kind of content production that they're already doing, what would that one thing be for you, Aviva?
I just have to say that people still care about content. It ain't cheap, but it's worthwhile to do. Strategy is always going to shift. It's a moving target, but good content provides a service to your readers. It answers their burning questions. It makes them feel seen. It gives them actionable next steps. And if you can do that while telling your brand story and building, your brand awareness and your affinity, you're going to see results.
Yeah, I love that. As you would imagine, maybe you have the same. One of the most common questions I get is like, is SEO dead, right? Like that's the very common one. Or you might get, is content dead? Chris was asking you, what's the point of content?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And what I keep going back to is, unless you also think people are going to stop searching for information, then there is no way for it to be dead or pointless. But what is changing is the way you think about it, the resources you put behind it, and all 100%. Of that.
Mm-hmm.
Really awesome. Chris, how about you? One takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done this pivot, or I've done a lot of soul searching on this topic of like, is content dead? And I'm deeply in the camp that it's more important than ever. It's like the only way through. I think the transition we're going through is to build a good brand. I think the thing that was most interesting here for me was just these like subtle differences that make the difference between a like 90% good article and 100% good article. And that is kind of all the difference because the market is so competitive. And basically leaning on data and information that only you have. So either like an author that you have, or like a quote that you have, or a piece of data you have, like, and then also like this unified brand. So all that stuff together is like, you should be sprinkling that through everything you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's like the path from like 90% good to 100% good.
Yeah, and I was going to say something actually pretty similar, which is I would want people to walk away thinking about for each and every piece, and like it's the kind of thing we put in our briefs often for writers, is like stating explicitly what is the unique value of this piece of content, relative to the competitors, but really relative to what more and more often what would show up in an LLM or an AI overview for that answer. And if you can't answer that, I'm not saying don't write it, but probably put some more extra thought into what the answer to that is for literally each and every piece before you publish it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Aviva.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, this was a pleasure. We would love to have you back
so
on.
Much.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tina, who can't make it, hopefully you're watching, and would love to chat with you soon. And people, please reach out to her. Please reach out to Chris and myself and Aviva. Follow Hone, follow Aviva on LinkedIn. She puts out some really fantastic stuff. And again, I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone better to follow to learn this kind of thing than seeing what Hone is doing over there.
I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.